Welcome back to the show. My name is Evan, along with WNBA's newest owner, Renee Montgomery.
Hello there.
All right, this is a big deal, especially considering your role in this next story. Everybody knew ZLATAN Ibrahimovic, the international soccer superstar, the comments that he made to LeBron last week, where he criticized LeBron, saying essentially athletes should stick to sports and don't get involved in politics. Stick to what you're good at. Don't get involved in politics. He said, do what you do best because it doesn't look good to get into other things like that. Well, LeBron James late Friday night responded to ZLATAN. And when he did, he referenced our very own Renee Montgomery, who went from WNBA superstar, 11 seasons in the league, to becoming the first person ever to go from player to co-owner of a franchise. She's now the co-owner of the Atlanta Dream. We're talking about it. We're very proud of her for that. Also, LeBron James is proud of her for that and mentioned you specifically when he was asked about ZLATAN's comments on Friday evening. Take a look.
Do you have any response to what he said?
Nah, absolutely not. I mean, because at the end of the day, I would never shut up about things that's wrong. I preach about my people, and I preach about equality, social injustice, racism, systematic voting, voter suppression, things that go on in our community. There's no reason. I won't say no reason, but there's no way I will ever just stick to sports because I understand how how this platform and how powerful my voice is, and he can just ask Renee Montgomery. If I would have shut up and just dribbled, just seeing that beautiful black woman today, be a part of a group where she's part of an ownership group now with the Atlanta Dream down in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, he spoke very highly of you and pointed to you as a person who you sat out the 2020 season to focus on working on social injustice initiatives and focusing on issues off the basketball court. And obviously LeBron has a ton of respect for you for doing that. And also the fact that now you have risen to the ranks of the ownership level. It's incredible. So what goes through your mind when you see LeBron James sitting in front of the media and saying all these things about you like that?
My first thought is I don't know why someone would go at him. That's one, just because he's somebody that he's going to, like he even said it, he's like, I'm going to do my homework before I come back at you. That's one. But two, for him to know that this is a superstar in the soccer league and he's a superstar in the basketball world and just in the world in general. And he knew that that was a big moment. And so the first thing that comes to my mind is like, wow, he made sure to share that moment with me on purpose. And so, like I said, he's just incredible. Like he's been incredible support to me. And I love that he's Team Atlanta Dream now. I'm just saying it like he better be Team Dream.
It's really amazing. So when he says stuff like that, I know that he's praising you publicly, but what's the relationship like with LeBron behind the scenes, and what is he doing to kind of help support you?
The thing about it is he's so involved in a sense of he makes sure things get handled. And I can appreciate that because there's only so many hours in a day. People always ask me all the time, like, how do you get things done? And I'm like, I have a team, of course. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have a team behind me that makes everything kind of roll. He has the same. And so while shouting out LeBron, I have to shout out his team because they're unbelievable. Adisu, Adam, his right-hand man, like they just make sure things get done. And so that's how they've helped me. They've made sure things get done. For me, it's like some things you can't plan for, like it's just a blessing, like the timing of how everything worked. And even with how I sat out last year, that's just a blessing. Like I couldn't have manufactured that. But the other stuff, it's crazy because even here, like when I first said I was going to start rolling with TMZ Sports, I didn't know that I was going to be doing all these different things. But honestly, you guys have helped me break every story. And so that makes it more viral and bigger. And so, yeah, it's a perfect storm. It really just turned into the perfect storm, and it's crazy.
Well, you're doing an amazing job, and it's not just us that feel that way. When it's coming from LeBron James, it must truly feel great. So congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
You can just ask Renee Montgomery.
LeBron James, check this out. LeBron James is selling his Brentwood estate, the one he bought in 2015. At the time, he spent $21 million on the home, and now he's put it on the market for a big discount. $20.5 million. That's a $500,000 discount. But this it's not all, sunshine and rainbows here. There are some weird, dark things that went on in this home. I don't know if you remember this, but in 2017, there was an incident where somebody grabbed a spray can and wrote a racist word on LeBron's front gate, which triggered a police investigation. We have photographs of the cops at the home. They had to repaint the whole gate to wipe it of that horrible word. LeBron James was talking about how, remember at the time, he was like, this is just proof that no matter how rich you get, there are certain people that are just going to be racist no matter what.
Doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in, Evan. This is one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the entire country. Still happened.
Wow.
And then also there's an O.J. Simpson connection because LeBron's house is on a street called Rockingham Avenue, which is just blocks from O.J. Simpson's Rockingham estate where he lived in 1994 when Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson were murdered. And that house that he was in was like a major focal point in the investigation. So everybody knew the Rockingham estate and the street of Rockingham from O.J. Simpson. But look, obviously that was a very long time ago. And Braun has nothing to do with that. But I'm just saying there's like that weird O.J. connection. But look, the point is, LeBron James has moved on. He now lives in a home in Beverly Hills, a $36 million home that he bought from a soap opera legend. As a matter of fact, we did the story that he bought this home from the estate of Lee Phillip Bell, who's most famous for co-creating the soap operas The Bold and the Beautiful and The Young and the Restless. So this is where LeBron lives now. It's an unbelievable estate. But if you want to own his former home, 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, it's got a media room, a home gym, a pool. It's got a basketball hoop near the garage. And like I said, it can be yours if you're willing to drop $20.5 million.
Yeah, okay, so I can't drop $20.5 million, but everything that's in that house, I would want in my house. So I love that the home theater. For me, I love binge watching stuff. So imagine just having like your own theater where you can binge watch Billions or anything amazing. So I want the house, just we can't afford it over here.
Over here too. How awesome is that though? You could play basketball on the hoop that LeBron had at his house. It's awesome. He's moving up, even a bigger, better place. But yeah, this place is an absolutely gorgeous house. It's awesome.
You know what's funny to me? Like, to me, this shows just how rich LeBron is, because you buy a house for $21 million and then you list it for 20.5. It's a $500,000 discount. But LeBron James is reportedly worth around or more than $1 billion. So it just shows that for him, it's like he's not trying to make a buck on this thing. It's more about he just wants to unload the property and move on with his life. So I mean, anybody else in the world, if you have a $20 million home, you're trying to, squeeze as much money as you can out of that place.
Real quick, he has kids. So, that happening at that house, you got to think like, you don't really want to, this is before you even got in it. You don't even want to really be associated with it. So I could see him just being like, let's just get rid of the house. It's already been vandalized. It already has that stigma on it. So let's just get rid of it.
I'm just saying, if I was LeBron's kid, I'd be like, Dad, let's make a deal. Why don't you just keep the house? All live in it, right? It'll be like the transition house, because his kids are still young, like they're teenagers. So, you don't want to, it's like down the way. It's not too far from Beverly Hills. It could just be like the little crash pad, starter home.
$20 million crash pad.
All right, let's lighten things up a little bit. Let's talk about the good part of sports, the competition part of sports. The argument, who's the greatest quarterback of all time? For years, it was Joe Montana. There wasn't even a question. People would say Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, and for good reason. Joe Montana absolutely balled out of his mind when he played. He won 4 Super Bowls. He was a 2-time NFL MVP. He was named to 8 Pro Bowls, threw for close to 44,000 passing yards. I mean, this guy was as dominant as they come.
And he never lost Super Bowls, Evan, whereas Tom Brady's 7-3. Joe, if he made it, he was winning that ring.
Yeah. Well, look, Tom Brady then came along after Joe Montana's career was over, and Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls with 10 Super Bowl appearances, 14 Pro Bowls, 3-time NFL MVP, and everybody's saying, there's no case anymore. So look, Joe Montana appeared on ESPN's First Take on Wednesday morning, and Max Kellerman asked him straight up, do you still consider yourself the GOAT? Are you the GOAT? Is there a GOAT? Or is it Tom Brady? And here's what Joe Montana had to say.
Oh, I think Tom has, taken his place on the top up there a long time ago. So he's had a tremendous career. It's fun to watch. And, yeah, there's always, everybody always contests over that. But I think if you look at what Tom's been able to accomplish in his time that he's played, I think is, puts him definitely up there in the top of the list. There's a lot of great guys, as I said before me, even, you go back to Otto Graham, who won 10 or 11 championships. So it's hard to compare them, but, if you're looking at it, yeah, definitely Tom at that point.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
respect to Joe Montana for saying that, but Joe Montana, is earned a reputation over the years of being one of the most competitive guys in all of professional sports. So for him to be able to sit there on national television and say, "All right, fine, it's Tom Brady."
Yeah, it had to be hard for Joe to say that.
Yeah.
I don't care how removed he is. He could be 100 years removed from playing. And I wonder if inside he doesn't say like, oh, I think I'm actually better, but there really is. It's hard to make the case for Joe anymore. It really
Well,
is.
you know that a lot of times now there's this thing going on. They're getting on Shaquille O'Neal a lot where they're saying like the old heads are not being very receptive to the new age. So there's always that thin line that you have to play as a former. Speaking of Joe Montana, by the way, he joined the FCF. As our chief strategist.
Hey,
The Fan Control Football League?
Yeah, he joined the FCF as chief strategic advisor and as an investor. So that happened like 4 days ago recently.
So in addition to being in business with Marshawn Lynch, in addition to being in business with the WNBA, because you're now a co-owner, you're now also in business with Joe Montana?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm excited to hear that it's still up for debate that he's one of the greatest because he's going to be leading the way for the football league. And so, it's always good to have somebody that's in that world. And you're saying he's competitive. So I'm like, great. That's great, especially as an investor. So, yeah.
Can I stop you for a second? Babcock, is there anybody that's having a better year than Renee Montgomery?
No. It's actually a proven fact that nobody.
Oh, my. Patrick Mahomes, we've discussed that.
Maybe Patrick.
We discussed that on this show.
Patrick Mahomes. It's relevant, extremely relevant right off the bat to say that Renee Montgomery, WNBA superstar, 11 years in the league, now co-owner of the Atlanta Dream, which is why I care deeply what you have to say about this first story right now. A bombshell revelation about the new reboot of the Space Jam movie that I thought was really, really interesting. LeBron James is obviously starring in the new movie, rebooting the 1996 film that starred Michael Jordan. And what's interesting is the director of the movie, Malcolm D. Lee, who's related to Spike Lee, by the way, is his cousin. I didn't know that, but it's cool. Felt that one of the main characters of the first movie was over-sexualized and wanted to change that for the reboot. And he's talking about Lola Bunny. And I know this kind of sounds ridiculous when we're kind of talking about an animated character, but I think it's really, really important that he felt strongly that in the original 1996 movie, Lola Bunny, who was like the main female character in the movie, was over-sexualized. And he felt that it wasn't great. And that he wanted to rework the character so she wasn't just like a sexy bombshell character, but a strong female athlete, representative of a more realistic, strong female athlete. And so he, quote unquote, reworked the character, is what he told Entertainment Weekly. And in the new movie that's coming out, it's less sexualized and more along the lines of how a strong female athlete would be represented in a basketball game. So we look back from the original movie in 1996 and we found the scene where Lola is originally introduced to the Monstars. And the fact of the matter is, you can go find this on YouTube if you want. There's like bombshell music playing. She walks in, she's got like a sexy way about her. And the other characters, including Bugs Bunny, are so like taken by her sex appeal that they like are literally paralyzed. They can't move. And she ultimately shows that she has skills on the court and she balls out and she kind of puts Bugs Bunny in place because he referred to her as doll earlier in the scene. And she's talented, but the director, Malcolm D. Lee, of the new movie felt like the character needed to be reworked. So the quote that he gave to Entertainment Weekly is, quote, "This is 2021. It's important to reflect the authenticity of strong, capable female characters." And in this photo from the movie, you can see that, she's dressed in a typical basketball uniform. She's wearing compression shorts underneath her shorts. The focus of her character is more about her athletic skill than her sex appeal. And I got to ask, Renee, as a female professional athlete, what's your take on this?
It's interesting. My first take is that Wow, people are really starting to pay attention to things now in a sense of just everything. People are making sure they're being conscious when it comes to racism, they're being conscious when it comes to sexism, and that's kind of what this situation is. I've seen that a gazillion times, and because I almost see it as the norm, I didn't even think to object it. But when you are the director and you can change things, then why not? I mean, there are women basketball players, and I like that he decided that, well, wait a minute here. If we're doing a character and we're molding it off of a women's basketball player, well, maybe let's do that after a real life situation and not a characterized one. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. I think at the same time, you can obviously be sexy and strong. They're not mutually exclusive. You can be both, and this is a cartoon. But look, if this is something that was, the wrong message to people out there, then fine. I don't have any problem changing it. But I would definitely want to point out that you certainly can be sexy and strong at the same time.
Absolutely. And, that's definitely a point that's up for debate here is like, is moving away from the version that was in 1996. Was it necessary? I mean, look, the fact of the matter is the director brought on 2 WNBA stars for key roles in the Space Jam movie, including Diana Taurasi. And I think that he wanted to use those players as kind of the inspiration for how Lola Bunny should be in the movie. And the fact of the matter is—
that's the point I was going to make is that, so for instance, LeBron James is very different than Michael Jordan, right? But that's who they casted. Sure. And so he's the new Space Jam. So if we're recasting and Diana Taurasi is going to be the voice of this athlete character that is nothing like her, well, why wouldn't you mold it? Because I'm sure they did some changes to the script to make it fit LeBron. Of course, it's not all going to be like Michael stuff. Yeah. So in that aspect, Diana isn't going to be prancing around like Lola Bunny. I can tell you that right now. So that makes sense to me. But I think the point that the director is trying to make is that it's overly sexualized. Right. Not that you can't be sexy and ball, that it's overly done. That's the key part there.
So you like this move?
Yeah, I like anytime people give WNBA some type of representation. Like there's a woman playing basketball, so of course you should think WNBA. And then if you have a WNBA legend like Diana Taurasi as the voice, well then I would want a little bit of, I'm just saying, I would want a little bit of my character to be in the character. Like, so if I'm doing the voice of it, like take a little inspiration.
I should correct you. She's not, so Diana's not doing the voice. She's playing a key role in the movie though. Like,
no, I'm not saying she's Lola. I'm not saying she's Lola. I'm saying if I'm cast as a voice, like Beyonce, when she did Lion King, Beyonce was all over Nala, almost to the point where people might not have even liked some of it. But I'm just saying, when you give yourself to a role, of course you would want the role to reflect you a little bit. So if he's doing the role after WNBA players, then of course it should reflect WNBA players, like, or strong athlete women that he's talking about. Maybe it should reflect that. I don't see many athlete women having showstopper music as they walk in and they're walking tongue. I don't see it.
Welcome back to TMZ Sports. I'm Mike, here with Renee Montgomery. Evan will be back with us later in the show. But Renee, we got to talk about Kevin Garnett, man, the greatest basketball player in the history of the Minnesota Timberwolves organization. As you know, he linked up with some investors and was actually trying to buy the team. Well, Renee, unfortunately, Kevin went on social media and absolutely blasted Glenn Taylor, the current owner of the T-Wolves, and sadly announced, and I'm not going to read this because there's so much cursing and bad language, I wouldn't be able to get through it. It would just be bleeps, that he is not going to be buying the T-Wolves, at least not now. Renee, as somebody who literally just bought a WNBA team, what do you think of this whole KG situation?
I mean, it's tough because, like, him going into it, he probably was thinking, okay, I'm a former player. You said it yourself. A lot of people consider him one of the best players to play for the Timberwolves in, like, their history. And so he probably thought that was going to give him a leg up. My first thought when I saw this too, is that I remember when J-Lo kind of first lost, and she kind of vented to the social media too about, I wanted to have women in these positions, and she kind of let it be known too. So what that tells me is that a lot of wealthy people and a lot of celebrities, they have a hard time with the no. And I get it because they're not used to seeing it. So this is like a time where, when they get told no, they go vent.
Right. Especially when you're putting yourself out there. Everybody knew that Kevin wanted this team. And then to be publicly rejected in a way, that's got to be tough, especially, like you said, for a guy that's not used to hearing no very often. I think it's a bummer, too. The T-Wolves fans badly want wanted this. And not that I've talked to too many of them, so I'm making an assumption here, but that team has not been good for a really long time. And to have KG, who was kind of one of the only bright spots that they've had over the last 20 years, I think that would have been great, and definitely them getting on the right path. But
yeah, and Evan, I mean, and Babcock, to your point, so like you talked about the fan base, if nothing else, that's one of those moves where it's like, all right, if you want to change things, one, Kevin Garnett is also known as one of the most competitive people that's ever played the game of basketball. So you want to bring that to your team. And then two, imagine the fan base and how I like what happened with me in the Atlanta Dream is a big deal because it's a former player doing now a different role with the team.
Yeah.
People, it would have been almost similar to that in a sense of, oh, wow, a Timberwolf great that's now running from the front office.
Right.
So to his point, like aside all of the cussing, I do think that it could have been a good situation in general. But this is money games we're talking. And so you never know what's going on in the backstory of it.
Absolutely. No, I think it's going to be interesting because he kind of alluded to still wanting to own a team. And it looks like it's not going to be the T-Wolves. Will it be another team? And how crazy would that be if KG, this Timberwolves legend, ends up owning a rival NBA team?
Oh, my God.
It's going to be crazy, and we're going to follow it. All right, that's going to do it for us today on TMZ Sports. But before we go, Renee, I know you have a big weekend coming up with the first team that you own. What's going on?
Yes. All right. So I'm back in the building at Infinite Energy Arena for the FCF games. My squad is undefeated. So now every weekend is a big weekend because we're trying to keep that undefeated title. Week 4, we haven't been beat yet. We've outscored our opponents by like 12 points. It's ridiculous, but I don't want to lose. I want to win a championship. So yeah, it's on. Oh, Marshawn's in the building too, I think.
So Marshawn's going to be in the house too. He was great last time. That video you got of him was amazing. So, all right, everybody, check us out on Monday. We're going to see if Renee's squad can stay undefeated or if she has now jinxed her guys. Check us out on Monday. Peace.